That's kind of the hope in the race, is that one day an underdog will go in and just smash the shit out of one of the pros, you know?
So like a movie. Everybody wants a movie, basically.
We want that, so that's why we go.
The race movie. Hey, Disney, what's up? You got to make the race movie, man. Come on.
¿Qué pues, hermano?
From Cafeteria Film Studios in Miami, Florida, Fresher Fresh presents Que Bola, where we talk to various movers and hustlers in South Florida who are popping off and succeeding, and in the process, how they're influencing the 305 culture. My name is Darwin Figueroa, and I am your host. I hope you enjoy this, and let's get into it, all right? Listo.
In this episode of Que Bola, we sat down with Miami Transplant Sarah Raw from Get Lifted Miami on IG. We spoke about the ways that she has been able to establish herself as an entrepreneur in South Florida, how she's been able to become a cyclist here in this beautiful state, and how she's been able to use all her previous experiences to become a business consultant. Hope you guys enjoy this talk. Let's get into it, all right? Listo. Since I'm just starting, it's one of those things that everything is me. It's a one-man show.
I'll be like that for a while.
But you got to do what you got to do. You know what I'm saying? And I really genuinely enjoy talking to people. You know, I enjoy communicating. Okay. It's a passion of mine, and communicating information. What more than to combine it with my other passion, which is 305 South Florida. Okay. You know what I'm saying? Born and raised here. You know, I have a lot of love for it. Yeah. It's in my fucking blood. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like, since it's in my blood, then it's like, those two things make me feel it would be a good combination. And that's basically what I'm doing. It's like, it's one of the strongest things that I've, like, feelings that I've ever had. Passionate that I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this. It's coming from passion. When I was doing insurance, it was not passion. It was all financial incentive, you know? And it provided me a very good life. But I was like, okay, I was walking into the office every day being miserable, you know? And it was my office, which is the crazy part, because it's my office and you're walking into your own office and you're miserable. You're like, this is not what I should be doing. You know what I'm saying? I should be doing something else. So when you start questioning, like, okay, am I really going to spend the rest of my life in this? Am I going to spend like the next, 30 years really building an insurance agency, or like whatever it might be, just toiling in this, being miserable, but just putting it aside because, well, it's making me money right now. There's other avenues that if you could be passionate and spend the same amount of time, and it'll generate money for you as well. You know what I'm saying? Because ultimately, that's like, if you're consistent with something and persistent with it, you're gonna be able to crack the nut. And I feel like that's something that I came to that conclusion.
I think we're kind of like hardcore wired, especially if you're from like the 80s, 90s era. Everyone kind of like you grow up with your parents kind of punching in your head that if it's easy, if it's something you want to do, it's not something you should be doing. You know what I mean? So you do what you think you should be doing until you have that nervous breakdown moment where you're sitting in your car trying to like coax yourself to go inside to work. Like that was a distinct moment for me. Like there was a moment where I was like sitting in my car crying and I didn't want to go inside the office that I managed, and I was getting a nice fat, $70K plus salary, but I was having emotional problems getting in. And then the minute that it was like my lunch hour, I would go and sit in my car. That's how much I hated it. I couldn't physically be in the fucking building. I needed to leave the premise so that I could sit. Even if I wasn't going anywhere, I would like eat in my car because I was like, I just don't want to.
You felt like more alive in your car, like open. Yeah.
So you're jamming out to music, smoking cigarettes that my boss didn't even know I smoked cigarettes, because I worked in healthcare. So it was just this giant lie of these web of lies that I was living of. I think you hit some point in your life where you're like, I really can't do this to myself anymore. You owe it to yourself to kind of go out there and take some risks. Worst case scenario, like you go broke and move back in with your parents, which would happen anyway when you had a nervous breakdown 5 years from now. Anyway, like there's no escaping that. That would have been like an inevitable outcome if you kind of stay in this like state of suffering. And I think that suffering is so gradual. It's like back pain. Like you don't know that you're living in discomfort until you go somewhere and like you go to a chiropractor and he fixes your back and you're like, oh, I can't believe I've been living this way. A little seed gets planted in your head that you don't have to live this way. And from that day forth, you will suffer even more ferociously. Yeah. And then from there, you have to go and like, scratch the itch. You can't leave it alone. And I think I've had moments where I definitely was like, whoa, I'm going to be broke. Like this was an awful decision. I don't have health. I tweak out. Sometimes I'm like, I don't have health insurance. I'm too old not to have health insurance. I tweak out. But other times I think about, how much happier I am. Like, in the grand scheme of things, like if I died tomorrow, I'll tell you that I'm pretty happy. Like I'm pretty satisfied. I'm at peace with the man upstairs. I feel that I've been given everything that I've asked for, although there are some challenges in getting what you think you deserve. And I think that's like a personal belief issue that you have. Like when I first started as an entrepreneur, even though I had worked in marketing for over 10 years, I suddenly felt that it was okay for me to charge people like $500 for a month's work. You know, I didn't have the belief in myself that like it would transfer even though I was my own boss. All of a sudden I felt like I'm working for SpongeBob SquarePants. I can't charge people money for this shit, you know? And it was really like I gave away my time. I worked on clients' projects for free. It's only 3 or 4 years in that I'm like, oh wait, I got to stop this shit and like actually make some money. And that my work is good, that you gain that confidence. Because once you leave what you know, like you leave insurance, you have to start all over again as a one-man show. And there's so many times that you're going to have like imposter syndrome where you're going to sit down and be like, I'm making this podcast. And then you're like, no one's listening. You know, who cares what I say? You get that imposter syndrome, and that's like your biggest enemy that I think you have to capture and just kind of keep on going. I've definitely had that where I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I can't take people's money for this. Marketing is the greatest scheme in the history of time. You know, like consulting, you know, in South Park, he's always talking about like consulting being like the greatest scam of all time. And that's how I would feel. I was like, man, I'm just scamming people marketing dollars and I don't know what I'm doing. And then I realized nobody knows what they're doing because Instagram, Facebook, all of the things all the marketing tools that we use, nobody is a freaking expert. You know why? Other than the people who actually created it, no one is actually an expert. It's so new that you could be an expert today and be like antiquated tomorrow. Yeah. You know? Like they do a software change or something like that, or they change their guidelines or their algorithm or their privacy settings or something like that, and all of a sudden your method of doing it is out the window. Basically. So I just feel like it's like we're a bunch of pirates now, you know, it's like a winner take all situation. I kind of love it. I kind of feel a little piratey when I'm out there, and I like it. That's what's up. And it's one of those moments like you really have to like learn to believe in yourself during that whole entrepreneurial journey. I think it's not raising the money. It's not developing the workflow. It's not getting the clients. The biggest thing is like getting over your own weird issues about money. I realized I had weird issues about money. I was completely okay when it was a check being cut to me by somebody else. But when you have to start paying yourself, you're like, maybe I don't need to pay myself. Maybe we need to get a new computer instead. You start falling into that category. And I think it's really important to like sit down and like evaluate like what am I bringing to the table here. Like, you're tempted to you do this one-man show, but you don't want to pay yourself for the one-man show. You like just take enough to cover, keep it evergreen, you know? Invest in more stuff. Well, I mean, from my perspective, I've been an entrepreneur since basically came out of high school. Even before that, I was an entrepreneur. It runs in my bloodline. I'm from Medellin, Colombia, and Medellin, la gente de Medellin, like the people from Medellin are known as basically hustlers and entrepreneurs. Like the entire city is known as hustlers and entrepreneurs. And my dad is literally the definition of un man de Medellin. He has so many ideas, and all he was ever thinking about is hustling. So I mean, that's the way I grew up, you know. So I grew up in that with that mindset. So like those questions like always come out, but there's always a quick answer to it. Like, yeah, fuck what the people think. Like, I'm doing what I like, and this is what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? Y pa la verga with everything else. I know that there's a path and there's a road for everything. If all you really have to do is just create your own lane and be the master of that lane, and that's it, bro. I don't think there's not much outside of that. You just gotta basically follow what it is that you want to do. Make sure that you're good at it, and if you're not good at it, gain the skills and be consistent, be persistent, you know? Yeah, for sure. I mean, and I tell you, it like comes in levels. Like your first level is really just kind of getting out of that corporate environment. You know, the corporate environment still to date, I will say, is there's a lot of ignorant people. Yeah. We're a little bit blessed here in like Miami because it's such a like diverse area and it's so friendly to minorities. But like if you work in corporate in Blue Bell, Pennsylvania, your life is very different. You're like, and that's kind of where I grew up hometown wise. Like I went to a high school with like maybe 4 or 5 Asian kids tops. Where'd you grow up? I grew up in Blue Bell, Pennsylvania. And Blue what? Blue Bell, Pennsylvania. Blue Bell, Pennsylvania. Yeah, like 20 minutes, maybe about like 30 minutes from like Amish country. You have to understand that there's still a certain level of cushioning that you get. You get to go to work and speak Spanish and nobody will give you shit. You do that up north, you will get fired. They're going to be like, take that shit and get out of here. And it will be even bad. They'll be like, Mexican, get out of here.
That's crazy. Yo, you know, I have one of my best friends. She grew up in Doylestown. Is Doylesville or Doylestown?
I think it's called Doylestown, but that sounds like a Pennsylvania.
I think it's Doylestown, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
So, and she always told me about, like, there was only like maybe like one minority in her whole high school and things like that. I'm like, yo, that's insane. In my high school, white people were the minority. I went to Miami Southridge.
You guys bullied them for being white.
So we didn't bully them. They were just literally the minority. There was that many like white kids, like Caucasian kids at Southridge.
Yeah.
You know, at least when I was growing up there, you know. And it's one of those situations where you just don't realize that until you leave South Florida. If you leave South Florida. Yeah. And that's the thing. I'm sure, like, okay, coming from where you come from, Pennsylvania, right?
Yeah.
How long ago you moved from Miami?
Well, I've been in Miami for 5 years, but like I grew up like most of my adolescence in Blue Bell, Pennsylvania, and then I moved to New York City to Flushing, which is very Asian town. Like there's a huge,
I know Flushing,
lots of Asians, and it's funny because like when I got up there, and I don't know why this is getting back into race, but it's like really funny because I remember moving there and being like, whoa, this is crazy. Like if you're not Asian, people are like yelling at you.
Yeah.
Like they look at you weird. And even this past month when I went up for Red Hook, just going back to Flushing blew my mind.
Oh yeah, there's like
Chinese cab drivers yelling at you in Chinese. They don't care if you're Chinese. You're just gonna get yelled at until you give them money and like you tell them where you need to go.
Yeah.
And it's just like even the Uber drivers, like it's just like here, except it's geared towards like Asian. And I remember like I was talking to one of my friends back then, and he was like, he's like, well, white kids in our school, we call them hakwais. And I was like, what does that mean? And he was like, that it literally translates to being a white ghost. And I was like, that's so messed up because I came from the complete opposite spectrum. So to see that these guys had, you know, Asian friends throughout high school and they never felt this isolation or the longing or yearning to want to not be yourself, wanting to be like, I grew up wanting to be white because that was all I was surrounded by. And that was what was normal to me. So there's a little bit of like self-loathing that you go through in high school or wherever you live demographically. But I think in the corporate environment, you also get that because corporate environments, I don't think are always like sensitive. And not that I'm saying like everyone needs sensitivity training, but I'm saying a lot of bosses are like total jerks. Yeah. Like will scream at you in front of 100 people just because they're having a bad day. And it's like completely acceptable. Everyone's just glad it wasn't them. So no one will stick up for you either. And I just feel like those things make it so challenging to even want to be in an environment or a team environment because it's just, you know, you don't want to deal with it. And then your priorities, I think, change. For instance, when I was really fed up with working with a team and I worked for this like doctor that was like just crazy. I was just managing and marketing his practice. He's literally ripping off Medicare folks of their copays. Like who does that? Like how desperate are you, bro? Like, so I just kind of, when I left there, I was like, there's some really evil people out there. And he was just very unpleasant to work with. And at that time, my priorities weren't money. It was getting into a safe environment that didn't involve me doing, you know, just hating my life. And then, you know, then I started working more as a freelancer. And then I got poor, started blowing through my savings. Then my priorities changed. And I said, I gotta do whatever it takes to make some money. Then I made some money. And then I was like, I need more freedom. So you kind of toggle between the two and I always thought business or entrepreneurship was linear, where it was like this, and it's not. It's cyclical from like desiring one aspect of it to the next. But it's still spiraling up, which is the good news. Each time you level up, like make a full loop between toggling between I need freedom to I need to pay my bills, you are one level higher. That's
true. You're moving up but the thing is, it's not a ladder because in the corporate there's a ladder, you know. In entrepreneurship, it's basically like a circle. So you're going to be at the top, and you're going to come back to the bottom, and then you're going to be at the top, and you're just going to be a little higher than you were the previous time. You know what I'm saying?
That's absolutely true.
That's basically the way it works.
Yeah,
you know?
every 3 months, I'm like, I'm going back to working for someone else. I'm not doing this shit anymore. And then a client's like, we love your work, here's more money. And I'm like, I'm staying forever.
Yeah, that's basically how everybody's working, going through their entrepreneur life right now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who are hoping for that first check to come in and blow up. So So you do that and you do the cycling as well, right?
Yes, I would like that to be eventually be my career.
Okay, so you just mentioned that you were in New York for Red Hook, right?
Yes, that was my first fixed gear criterium race.
Okay.
Scary. Yes.
That's what's up. How did it go?
It was so challenging because I really just like, you don't know what you need to know. Like, I need to make a YouTube video about this.
Okay.
Like, no one really talks about how to prepare for your first. They tell you little things. Like I had, some of the guys from our bike scene. They'd be like, "You need to do this. You need to do that."
Like who? Like Raven?
Well, yeah, he was. We kind of went up there to get not together, but like all of us kind of met up there. But like everybody's got their 2 cents on what needs to be done. Okay. But like you don't know who to believe. So
there's no actual like guidelines that have been set up through like doing queries and shit.
No,
you know?
No. So it's a complete. You just don't know what to expect. And then once I got there, I really realized I was riding the wrong gear ratio, and I geared down thinking it was going to be such a tough technical race. Yeah. And then when I got there and I went in there, I was like, oh, okay, it's technical, but not that technical where I needed to gear down. And by then it was just it was a little too late. So I did okay on the first race, and then there was another race. And the second one, I had I had FOF. I had fear of falling. Because in the first race, I hit a girl. Like I hit somebody as I was turning. I called inside, but she like couldn't move out of the way fast enough. And then once you turn, you kind of get bottlenecked. Like everyone gets bottlenecked. And I just kind of felt after I did that bump with her, and I didn't know if she had fallen or not, I just kind of pulled way back. And
so psychologically, it fucks with you.
So, yeah.
Because you don't know if you bump somebody and they fell, and you don't know if you're going to get bumped and you're going to fall.
Well, here's what I'll tell you. This actually ties in so deeply to being an entrepreneur.
Okay.
So April is like the worst month that they could have Red Hook, because this is tax month. Not only is it tax month for me, but it's tax month for my clients, meaning radio silence. Invoices have gone out. It's not now. Red Hook is the last Saturday of April. So I'm waiting for my May invoices to nothing, radio silence, cricket. And I'm like, not even like $150 invoices coming through. So by the Friday before the race, I was telling some of my teammates, I was like, dude, I cried this morning because I'm so stressed out. I'm up here in New York. There's not much I can do. Huge part of me regrets being here because I'm spending all this money to race. I'm not a millionaire going on tennis retreats.
Correct.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I felt really bad the whole time I was up there. I was really apprehensive because this was probably the first time in my business history that like everybody just disappeared. Like checks owed or not, or new projects, like contracts signed or not, like nothing was moving. And prior to going up there, I was pitching and pitching and pitching. So I was like, something's got to bite. But over the years, I've learned that April and like September is just like it's a slow month. September, people are going back to school. April, people are paying taxes. It's a slow month, and I mentally prepare for it. But every year I get there and I freak out. Instead of like, oh, I got this. Like,
it's like I already been here.
I've just got to wait till May. There's nothing I can do. Like, just everything's got to wait on hold until May.
Yeah, you just got to set up for April then. Yeah. You got to make sure that March is last to May.
But then March comes around, and then you're like, I got to get all this bike shit because the race is coming up. So So basically there was a big part of me that was like, why did I do this? Yeah. Like, but I had trained for it. I went last year and I course-martialed the race, and it was just such a great experience that I wanted to be a part of it. Now I'm even more excited because now I feel like next year at least I'll go knowing what gear ratio, or at least having the will to know that I can change my gear ratio. Like, I felt like I was stuck with whatever gear ratio I had. Like, I was like, this is the end. Like, I made my bed and I gotta lie in it.
Yeah.
I made the wrong decision. While meanwhile, all the pros have their mechanics there switching in between races, switching things out for them to like, listening to what they're saying. So it was a really good experience overall.
That's cool. Yeah. That's cool. So how long has that race been going on?
11 years.
Oh, so it's a pretty well-known race.
Yeah.
How many people you think competed in it?
300 men and 80 women this year.
And is it co-ed?
It's separated by gender, so men and women are categorized separately. There's no age discretion, and there's also no level discretion. So this is like one of the few races where like complete amateurs can race with professional racers.
Cool.
So it's really interesting because you're getting in the ring with some people who are extremely technical, that do nothing but eat and train and sleep all day.
Yeah, for racing.
For racing, have their own team, have their own bikes, and then guys like Raven, who just kind of ride ride around and do their own thing
Yeah.
and fully sponsoring themselves, you know? Ain't nobody's spot, you know what I mean? Like everything comes from whatever he makes and earns and builds and brings up there. So to see that, and to see like, you know, Raven did incredibly well. He like, the fact that some of these street cats can even stay in the ring with them that long is just kind of like unbelievable. So that's kind of like the hope in the race, is that like one day an underdog will go in and just smash the shit out of one of the pros, you know?
So like a movie. Everybody wants a movie, basically.
We want that. So that's why we
The
go.
race movie. Hey, Disney,
Yeah.
what's up? You got to make the race movie, man. Come
Yeah.
on.
Some like weed smoking kid from the Bronx
Yeah.
comes in and just destroys all the pros. Like that's what, you know, that's what we want to feel. That's the hope that we go in with until the minute we get in the ring.
Yeah.
Is
it even remotely close?
I mean, I feel like it's always pros that come in, like people who are racing on pro teams. Top 3, I would have to, you know, I'd have to look that up, but I feel like top 3 is always, you know, specialized. Specialized is the one that like organize the race, you know, so it's like they're prepared. They're well prepared. They know what they're doing. You know, they cycle in teams, so there's a lot of teamwork on like making sure that they're in the front. We're all going one-man shows. We don't know what the hell we're doing.
Yeah.
And so I hope that next year that we go with like much more organization and strategy. And
Maybe like the street team from Miami could get together and make a street team and then work together like that. You know what I'm saying?
you know, but the thing is, these Miami guys are so hard. You've been on a group ride.
Yeah.
Just trying to get them to do like one thing cooperatively is like the most challenging thing ever.
I feel you. I agree with you there. But I think that the one thing that they would all be able to cooperate with is going fast, because they all like to go fast. So if they all enjoy going fast, it's just basically saying, okay, how are we going to go fast together?
Yeah.
So we could basically, as a street team, whoop that ass, you know, and go out there and beat the professionals. And just like, it would be like the Miami. How many people from Miami do you think went up there?
Men, I think there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys from Miami that raced, and 1 girl, which was me.
That's cool, man. So Miami was repping out there and
We were repping.
hard.
We were repping. And so many of our friends came, even if they weren't racing. They came just to represent and hang out.
So there was a bunch of So it was a bunch of group of people who weren't racing that was there as well.
Yeah.
So how many, like 15, 20 people you think you could say out there?
I would say about like maybe 10 or 11 of us all
That's
together.
cool, man. That's
so
cool.
It was crazy to go up there. And the night after the race, you know, we had like a team house, and it's funny because like I thought that we wouldn't want to hang out with each other. Like all of us go with this like goal of like meeting this pro and like going to have beers with them afterwards, you know, like things like that.
Okay.
And it's because you have to remember they're like heroes to us.
Okay.
So we're like, oh my God, it's like that guy, it's Stefan Schaefer. Like we get all googly eyed. We want to take Instagram pictures with them and stuff. So I really thought by Saturday night, like by the end of the race, I would be like, oh, I want to go and hang out with other people. But it's crazy. All of us kind of hung out together.
Yeah.
Like we just wanted to hang out with each other. And then that's when I really realized that there was a lot of like Miami vibes, like that solidarity.
Yeah.
You are correct about that. Like, for instance, if any one of us got our ass whooped or something for whatever reason, solidarity, I promise you, like...
That's the one thing that people don't realize.
Yeah.
When people from Miami meet other people from Miami outside of Miami, they are loyal to that person
know.
regardless of whether they know them or not.
Yeah.
Believe me, I travel a lot and
Okay.
I rep Miami everywhere.
Okay.
So I rep a lot of UM gear because I'm from Miami.
That's
I rep
true.
my own clothes, you know, it's like shit like Vete Pala or like Pachanga or whatever the fuck. It's like total Miami shit, you know? So people come up to me all the time like, you're from Miami? Like, oh my God, I'm from Miami too. Bro, I was in Asheville, North Carolina, up like in the mountains somewhere,
In the sticks.
in some fucking bar, and some dude who looked like a straight like mountain dude.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like he was just mining coal and shit.
Yeah.
He comes up to me, he's like, "You from Miami?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm from Miami." He's like, "I'm from Miami too, man. I'm from Kendall." I was like,
Oh
what?
my God, of course
The
he's
fuck
from
you
Kendall,
doing that?
bro.
He's like, but I left like 18 years ago. I was like, oh shit, yeah. So now you're Asheville, North Carolina dude. You originally from Miami.
But his inner Miami wanted to like be cool and be
Exactly.
like, I'm from the 3. Well, no, he's
Anywhere
from
you
786.
go, it's one of those things that that they're gonna be loyal to you outside of Miami.
Yeah.
Not here in Miami, that's another decision.
Yeah, we're savage once we get here, but it's so interesting because when we're somewhere else and we're all a bunch of Miamians, and like I've only been here for 5 years, but I have to say like this is and I've lived in many cities.
Okay.
Like I've been all over. I've gypsied all over the East Coast.
Okay.
And I have to tell you, for whatever reason, even though like 5 years ago when I moved here, I was the only Asian.
Yeah, there's been a rapid Asian explosion in South Florida.
It's the Chinese real estate that's.
It's Donald Trump when he brought Xi Jinping over here to Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah.
Basically, all eyes of China was on South Florida, and ever since that, it's basically been an explosion of Asians in South Florida. I've never seen so many.
Well, I feel like a lot of the Brickell property, like
It's being bought up
by Chinese investors.
Yeah.
So naturally,
Insane.
there's a interest in being over here.
Yeah. So you were saying growing up being from all the parts in the East Coast, you were gonna say something about South Florida.
Yeah, I have to say, like, I felt more home here than anywhere else, even though, like, I'm telling you, when I first, 5 years ago, I was, like, the only Asian. I would go to, like, Treehouse, and everyone would point at me and be like, Gina!
Yeah.
You've seen that happen at the bike ride.
Yeah,
They call me
yeah,
Gina.
yeah.
It was like that. And it's, like, it's hilarious. Of all places, why do I, like, think this godforsaken place is my home? I lived in New York, too, so I go back to New York.
Yeah.
You would think that I would miss it. The minute that I get up there, I start complaining, and I'm like, I gotta get back to Miami. It's crazy.
People don't realize how much of a paradise we live in. That's the thing. When you travel and you go to other major cities, you're like, man, esto no tiene nada en Miami. Like, this don't have shit on Miami.
Yeah.
Because like I see your on your Instagram post. You're on Key Biscayne in the mornings. You know what it is for people to see that kind of beauty every single day?
Yeah.
You don't see that shit in New York. You don't see that shit in Philadelphia. You don't see that shit in Washington. You don't see that shit in Raleigh, Durham, North Carolina. You see that shit in Miami. Every single morning, I could get on my bike. I live right over here. I live in Shenandoah.
Oh, okay.
I could go through the Grove. All this beauty that I'm exposing myself to.
Yeah, you got peacocks running around, just
You
hanging
got
out.
peacocks just running around. People aren't even aware of that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's one of those things that we're full of the beauty, and like I think we've just been so overexposed to it that we've been numb to it.
Well, and that's why I love leaving here. Going to New York, nothing made me miss Miami more than going to New York and like seeing how dirty the streets are there. All their power lines are still above ground, so it's just like everything looks messy everywhere. Miami is mainly underground, so you don't really see 8,000 wires coming out of every building. It's like very cleanly laid out here.
Yeah.
So you go up to New York and you see like the old brownstones that have the wires, and they're only like 9 or 10 stories
And
high.
they're walk-ups.
Yeah, walk-ups, no elevator.
Oh
You're just
my
kind
God,
of like
walking. One time I stayed in the Lower East Side.
Yeah.
And I had like a 7-story walk-up, yo. I was like, every single day every time I would come back to the spot, I'd be like, man, I don't even much want to go upstairs that bad. Like, I'm down to just kick it down here, just talk for a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
That walk-up was insane. Like, the thing is that Miami's a newer city. It was established maybe like 200 years ago, max. I don't even know. It was like 200 years ago, I think.
But I mean, and still like nothing really went up. It was
Yeah.
all like industrial warehouses until the last 10 years they started really like cleaning it up and
Yeah.
getting it more geared for like actual commerce and less. And then like with Brickell coming in the last few years, I think that's really helped. Having a finance district has helped us actually live here instead of like all go to the beach to work. When I first got down here, even 5 years ago, that everyone was looking for a job on the beach because that's where they believed the money was. Everyone wanted to work in hospitality. Everyone wanted to work on the beach, get at the tourists. Now nobody wants to live or go to the beach. We only go there when we actually physically want to go to the beach. And like the rest of us stay over here. And it's like, it feels so much more normal. Like it's more livable for people who actually live here that aren't dependent on tourist money.
Yeah.
I think that was so heavy. When I first moved here, I felt pressure too to like work in an industry where I could like rake in cash on the seasons and then take the other seasons up. And I was scared, to be honest. I was really scared to do business here because people were like, summers are dead. You better have a nice little nest egg for every summer. And I'm like, dude, every summer I kill it, bro. It's only April. Yeah, it's only April and September that I have like these like lulls. But I have to tell you, like June, July, August, I'm always surprised. These are when they're like kids are off to like camp.
Yeah.
And they can sit down and be like, let's try this. Like business owners are like, they want to try new things. So honestly, like the first few years, at least first 2 years, I had a weird fear about the summers because I had been told that so many times that like, oh, if you want to stay in Miami over the summers, you're going to have to get some shitty job. You're not going to make any money. And I let that kind of get to me, you know?
You can't, there's always going to be naysayers about like, oh, this is going to be this and that's going to be that. South Florida, it's especially is like full of, like I used to say, like South Florida is a sunny place for shady people, you know what I'm saying? It's like a lot of people are saying are doing, saying, basically talking shit, hablando mierda, you know? Like they don't really know what it is, you know? Like what it is like, if you're working and you're grinding, there's money to be made every day. Summer, fall, winter, you know, whatever it is. Like, aquí de yo, se tiene que resolver. Like, there's this thing in Spanish. We gotta resolve this. Se tiene que resolver. This guy has to get done.
Yeah.
Like, doesn't matter if it's summer, yo. You know what I'm saying? I still need to pay my bills and do shit. Like, get out of here, bro. Like, it's just that back then there was less people, you know what I'm saying, and they weren't aware of it. Right now we're at the precipice of like blowing up, you know. I think South Florida, Miami itself probably has like 5 million residents in it, in Miami-Dade County, you know what I'm saying. That's humongous. That's huge. We're on the precipice of being a really big major city on the East Coast. God. You know, I mean, we've always been a big city, but never like that kind. And especially what you were saying, finance and things like that has been opening up the door. The one thing that I do have to say that has been negative about this, the cost of living has ridiculous. Gone up the roof, redonkulous. Like people are hasta aquí, like, you know, like, and those are people, and I understand because not everybody is in an industry where they could actually like make that kind of guap. But I always have to tell people, yo, start a side hustle, bro. Do what you're doing. Like, don't just clock in, clock out, and then go watch television. Instead of watching television, start a side hustle. Do something on the side. Do what you like. If you like drawing, make little drawings and put them on Etsy. Like, you know, do whatever it is, dog, and start making some guap on the side. If you like Facebook, become a Facebook developer and learn how to do Facebook AdWords, you know, and you'll be fucking good. Gucci.
Yeah, none of us can afford to have single stream income anymore. I think, even I would say a decade ago, it was kind of frowned upon for anyone not to have a single stream focus, single stream education, and now it's like, you're valued as a multifaceted entrepreneur. Even as an entrepreneur, you need to know how to do 7, 8 different industries. You can't just be like, I just do one, I'm a web designer. Okay, well, you're obsolete now because like Squarespace and Wix have come out with so many platforms that you don't have to like, you've lost about a third of your client base.
So true.
So if you're not hustling and learning new things, so now it's kind of like, okay, I need to learn how to become like a Facebook ads manager because that's where I'm getting more clients. When I first started, it was more web design, mobile web, things like that. And I was like, oh, I don't do social media. I think social media is stupid.
Wow.
And then, and now it's like 10 years ago, if I walked into one of my doctors that I work with and been like, okay, so let's talk about your Facebook page. They would have been like, get out of my office. Now I got doctors hitting me up and they're like, oh, how am I doing on Instagram?
Yeah.
How am I doing on Instagram? And I'm like, just log in and look. Yeah. And they're like, how do I do that? And I'm like, oh, geez.
Yeah.
It's
because
crazy.
it's been turned on its head in South Florida. I think people in South Florida have a proclivity to doing things on social media. There's a lot of like those social media models are from South Florida, the vast majority of them. What? Like South Florida people are somehow really good on working this internet thing and manipulating it and turning it into something that is positive for them.
Well, I will say, like, I forgot when I went up to New York, Miami's a very beautiful city. It's hot. You're not gonna be covered up most of the year. So I noticed like fashion trend wise, like couture wise, we're like 10 years behind. Like, I know when I first moved down here, I saw a girl with like a scrunchie in her hair and I was like, I haven't seen one of those since I was in like fucking high school.
Yeah.
So it was really crazy. But I noticed that she had a banging body because even though she was rocking scrunchies, she was like, well, fuck that. I'm gonna hit the gym every day and look fly as fuck because I'm going to the beach all day tomorrow. So like there's like a flip and give on that a little bit, which I thought was like,
this is different priorities. You know what I'm saying?
Priorities, yeah.
We hot as fuck over here, so we get to show a lot more skin. So you want to work out and be in that kind of shape more often. You know what I'm saying? And on the flip side, we don't really give a shit about fashion because at the end of the day,
you're gonna be in flip flops.
Exactly. At the end of the day, yo, right now I'm in shorts and a t-shirt, dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, like, what is fashion in South Florida is not The only thing it's not a priority. It's not a priority. I mean, there's some people who prioritize it, you know, and try to be fashionable, but you can't wear layers in South Florida. I'm sorry, bro. You can't wear layers, dog. Even unless those layers are made out of like toilet paper. You know what I'm saying? You gotta make toilet paper layers. Yeah. But there's like outside of that, you can't be wearing them fucking layers. It's hot as fuck out here, dude.
Yeah.
You know, you just
different priorities. You're
different priorities.
Right.
We're all about something else out here.
But I think that's what makes these women and men so keen on having their digital avatars be an even better representation of who they are, just because aesthetics have been pressured onto them from a young age. I can't imagine growing up here and having to go to the beach with the guys every weekend, because that's what we never did shit like that, okay? We I don't know, scootered around the neighborhood.
But it also desensitizes you to a lot of that. You grow up in South Florida and you start looking at women in a different fashion than what a normal kid in another city would be looking at women like. It'd be like, it definitely plays into the psyche of South Florida men, especially men that are Hispanic that have this whole machismo thing going in their head. You're telling your grandparents or your aunts and uncles are telling you, oh, how many girlfriends you got and things like cuánta niña and this and that. It's like, what? What's going on here? You know what I'm saying?
Normal?
That's not normal, but it's normal in like, oh, cuántos novios, cuántas novias tiene, this and that. Like, yo, what are you talking about? Like, chill out, son. You know what I'm saying? It's something that it's part of the culture.
It's part of the culture,
It's part of the culture. You know, it all has to do with the sun and the skin being exposed so much, I guess. I don't know.
You're absolutely right. You're like, when I first moved down here and I like dated my first Colombian boyfriend, I remember thinking that. I was like, whoa, what a savage. You know, I was like, what? This is like the most savage. I was always mad at him because I was like, and he always said that. He was like, why do you think I'm such a bad person? He's like, you get me all wrong. And I'm like, because I'm from the north.
Yeah.
We're all bundled up. You know what I mean? I was like, we don't act like this.
Yeah, no, over here it's not. This is another culture altogether. Yeah. So in terms of your cycling, how often do you train and things like that to put in work for these races?
You know, I try to cycle about 100 miles a week. So I try to break it down into 25 miles a day. So like 4 times a week. Right now I'm on a little bit of a chill phase. Plus we're in this like weird, it's been raining. Weather, but I'm trying to cut back a little bit too. Like I want to cycle 3 days a week and then be in the gym 3 days a week. And cycling is, you know how it is. It's super time consuming. You gotta make sure the bike is good. Get out there, you know, get to where you want to actually cycle, come back, put the bikes back, you know, like there's a situation that happens. So I think like if I can cycle consistently, maybe more miles, maybe 30 miles 3 times a week and do like 90 miles a week and then just hit the gym the other 3 days. It'll
be better for you.
That would be a better training regimen, I think, because also too like the type of cycling I want to do isn't like an endurance. Yeah. It's not Tour de France where like I want to do the races. Yeah, I want to do like hard races, hard sprints. So that's a little more muscular, muscle building, and also too as an entrepreneur, I mean, you got to eat shit. You wake up at 5 o'clock, ride 25 miles, and then go to work. You're a little like I save those for the days that I need to do like admin work. I mean, like send out invoices, you know, answer tweets. Like those are the days that I cycle and then go to work, because I know that emotionally and mentally and physically, like my bandwidth has been like so much of my bandwidth has been used before I even get to the office. That whatever I'm doing for the rest of the day is basically going to be like paper pushing. Like it
doesn't require a lot of neurons.
The high level thinking, no, because my brain's already like my brain is so funny. Like once it's so like exercise is good and bad because I see what happens. You do a bomb ass exercise and you feel like you're done. Like you're like, well, I exercised today. I don't need to do anything else.
I don't need to do anything else. That's it. I did what I have to do.
I did the part that everyone's always bitching about. So you're like, because I got that done, I don't have to do shit today. You know what I mean? Like that's how I feel. I come back from doing, you know, I do a loop on Key Biscayne in the morning. I come home, take a shower, have some breakfast, and I'm like, I feel like a superhero. And I haven't actually done shit when it comes to my work.
Correct.
But because I have experienced that excitement, I'm no longer driven. I'm like, I already got my high today. You know, so
it's that bicycling high. Then you got to push yourself to then get to that next level and then start doing work.
Well, yeah, and that's where I see these like triathletes. I used to think these triathletes, like a lot of the guys who were triathletes, like did nothing but like swim, run. Nah, man, they're all like software engineers, doctors, like highly overachievers that also happen to have time to train for a fucking triathlon. So then I realized that there was another like level of like athlete creates another level of discipline. Then I see how successful their businesses are too. These are guys with successful, own 8 restaurants or is a chiropractor or, you know, like that level. And they're still training that hard, which is run, swimming, and cycling. And then I realized, I'm like, okay, my biggest issue is not that I'm not training hard enough. My biggest issue is that I have stopped dreaming big enough to support expansion in any way. Like I've stopped dreaming big enough to make myself do something. For instance, like if I moved into a different apartment and my rent was $200 higher, I promise you I would make that $200 this month. Like, promise you I will fit to expand. I think it's called Parkinson's law. Like if you are given 10 hours to do something, you will take all 10 fucking hours because that's the human brain.
Right.
And I feel like that works in reverse. If you know your rent's, you know, $1,800, you will get $1,800. I don't know, you will hustle, you will do whatever the fuck it takes to make that $1,800. Now, if your rent's $700, you're going to work about $700 worth and then be like, kind of want to chill a little bit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you feel satiated when you can meet, you know, the expectations to an adequate, not excellent, adequate amount, just enough. I feel like that's kind of like the biggest disease we get as entrepreneurs. Once you start breaking even, once you start making a little bit of profit, you forget that you came in the game to be rich as fuck.
Yeah,
you came in and you were like, I'm Tupac, baby, you know? And then 2 years in, you're like, I'm just glad if we're breaking even.
Yeah.
You know, like, and I'm so guilty of that because, you know, I hit that phase very often where I'm like, well, as soon as I hit that break even marker, like I just want to rest. I'm like, I deserve to rest. And then it's crazy because I swear when I started, I was like, I want to be a millionaire. I want to be a millionaire. And now I'm like, nah, dude, I'm just trying to pay my bills, motherfucker. Like, you know, it's so funny how your perspective changes.
So nuts.
You get to that level of like, if you don't start dreaming big, your biggest issue is that you're just gonna stay. Anything, you know, in this universe, it's constantly expanding. Plants are always growing, like things are always happening. And if you suspend that, like it's like death. It's like living death. You know, if you suspend that, you're in a weird place and you develop a lot of vices, you develop a lot of things because you're trying to cope with the fact that you're meant to consistently expand, reach and try to do something bigger and better. But if you stop yourself from doing that because you feel comfortable, you are in danger of becoming back pain, living in, you know, living with the slow pain.
Exactly. You gotta challenge yourself. You gotta shake yourself out of that. That's what's up, man. I really like the way you think. I mean, it's really good. A lot of entrepreneurs gotta listen to this podcast. A lot of things you got to say are really powerful. If people want to get in contact with you, where would they be able to reach out to you to get any kinds of like help, services, anything like that? Where it's easiest to get in contact with you?
You know, easiest is gonna be my Instagram page.
Okay.
It's at Get Lifted Miami, all one word. And I actually recently got into I had hired a business coach last year when I hit like this wall of I just couldn't get motivated and I just wanted to stop working. And, you know, I was going through a little bit of a rut. So I finally invested in myself and spent the most money I have ever spent on a
service.
Matriculated educational service, ever in my life. But I coughed up that money and sat down and figured out what my issues were. And then I ended up doing a course with him. And then I started coaching other people on kind of like lifestyle design, consulting, a little bit of life coaching, a little bit of business coaching. I found it to be like such a good outlet. Like they pay me, but I feel really good because I get to tell them these things that I've experienced and like these hardships that I went through and be completely transparent about it, because that's like the part that helps them to understand that like you're not alone. Like there's no thought that you've thought in the business lifetime that has only been thought by you. Because you get all ashamed and shit about like your failures and you're like, I'm the only one who borrowed money from their parents.
Yeah,
didn't
no,
pay them
what?
back. No, we all did. Like,
that's a habit. That's cliche.
Yeah, I mean
that's cliche for entrepreneurs, borrowing money from their parents.
Yeah, but it's like, you know, you tend to be really hard on yourself about that. So yeah, if anyone's out there and they're really struggling, I'm happy to connect. You know, there was somebody on Instagram that reached out to me about that, like how she wanted to work more or she wanted to cycle more, but she was kind of stuck in this job. And like, I made a YouTube video for her and that was like really meaningful. Like it was meaningful. I felt like I was actually helping someone.
That's cool. Yeah. So you're doing a lot of that, and what else? What other services are you being able to provide people right now?
Media services, digital marketing, social media, web services, business consulting, lots of social media.
Okay, so blogging. social media services. That's cool. So at Get Lifted, GETLIFT ED Miami. MIAMI.
Yep.
That's what's up. All right. I appreciate you swinging through. Sarah in the studio. Appreciate that. Appreciate your time. I appreciate you talking to us and spreading your knowledge and being basically a strong, powerful female figure in the South Florida scene and influencing and helping other people get to their goals and to their happiness.
Yeah, and awesome. Likewise, Darwin, I think you're doing a great thing here, like promoting, South Florida, really letting people know like what it feels like on the inside. It's not just a cool party city. There's so many people with like such deep substance and such deep character here that I think it's unfair that people limit it down to South Beach.
Yeah. Yeah, Playa Puteria, that's the craziness, man.
Yeah.
It's just a beach and hoeing around and partying.
Yep.
Like, no, it's not just that. There's like so much more. We have so many people here who are providing so many different opportunities and it's just popping in so many different ways.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a pretty dope city to keep your eye on for the next like 5 to 10 years because we have all the mixings, like I don't know if you know how to in the Spanish. Somebody's probably made guiso for you. Guiso is like this thing where it's like all these different seasonings and vegetables and things like put into a pot and they mix it up. That's what we have. We're making guiso and guiso good as fuck. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm gonna get you some of that. That shit is so fire. Like, so, and that's what people are gonna love Miami guiso and it's coming through. I know that. I see it sizzling right now. Being able to see it as a native. It's been a fun experience witnessing this. So once again, thank you for your time. I appreciate you swinging through. If you want to get in contact with Sarah, reach out. Get Lifted Miami on IG. My name is Darwin Figueroa. Thank you for your time. This is Que Bola, the podcast hosted by Fresher Fresh. Y'all reach out, leave some comments, subscribe. Yeah, be easy. Later.
I want to thank my guest, Sarah, for coming on to the show, talking to us about all the various experiences that she went through to become an entrepreneur. If you like the show, please feel free to subscribe and share it with your friends. If you want to get in contact with Sarah, you already heard, at Get Lifted Miami. Holla if you want to get in contact with me. The website is freshourfresh.com. Thank you once again for your time, guys. Be easy. Late.